Part 7. The Crown, the Bank, and the Bridge. From this confluence of historical timelines and events, we derive the understanding that the United States of America was intended to become the third crown in the Triple Crown that sits on the head of the officeholder of the presumptive papal authority. In worldly terms, these are the three sovereign city-states, Vatican City, City of London, and Washington District of Columbia, that rule the fictional world as supported by the esoteric cult of death. It is about binding the living substance of the world's population in perpetual debt in order to extract that life force substance and to externalize it into the creation, building, maintenance, and continuity of the fictional world of legal and monetary systems as the basis and mechanisms of bondage. The United States of America is not the country you believe it to be. It is actually a crown possession as made clear by the following designation of George III in the Treaty of Paris, that supposedly established peace between the Crown and the United States. Quote, "It having pleased the divine province to dispose the hearts of the most serene and most potent Prince George III, by the grace of God, King of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, Defender of the Faith, Duke of Brunswick and Lüneburg, Arch-Treasurer and Prince-Elector of the Holy Roman Empire, etc., and of the United States of America." End quote. Here you see the merger of all that we have delineated herein above: the Holy Roman Empire, the control of the land via the system of prince-electors thereof, the control of the global monetary system via the office of Arch-Treasurer thereof, the ownership of the United States of America as inclusive of Holy Roman Empiric possessions via the Crown Corporation and the City of London. In the Constitution for the United States of America, the office of President of the United States of America is established in Article 2. The phrase, "the United States of America," is only used twice in the Constitution. The first instance is in the preamble that states that "we, the people of the United States," as the first contracting party, "do hereby establish and ordain this Constitution for the United States of America," as the second contracting party. This is the same United States of America for which George III was identified as Prince-Elector and Arch-Treasurer, as part of the Holy Roman Empire. The other instance is the identification of an office of President of the United States of America in Article 2. This clearly indicates that the office of President of the United States of America is a subordinate of the Crown, not a sovereign for the people. "We, the people of the United States," refers to the people who established the 13 free and independent states in 1776 and formed a confederacy via the Articles of Confederation, in which a body was created to represent the Confederacy, known as the United States in Congress Assembled. It was this United States in Congress Assembled, or United States, that established and ordained the Constitution for the United States of America, a crown corporation, inclusive of the office of the President. As we will delineate further on below, the ultimate purpose was to bankrupt a derivative of this arrangement, the United States Incorporated, established by the Act of February 21, 1871. The end result and purpose was to bind the people in voluntary servitude and diminished capacity as the perpetual debt sureties via the above-described Uniform Commercial Code seated in the District of Columbia. As U.S. citizens resident in a territorial military district of the District of Columbia, the people will be monitored, maintained, controlled, and adjudicated via the black-robed priests seated on the benches in the temples of justice. This is where all parties are brought before the priests and are seen as vessels in commerce that the Crown's officers and foot soldiers have arrested under letters of marque and reprisal. The arrested vessels are then brought into these admiralty courts for adjudication according to the rules of war on the seas and rules of war on land, and the settlement and distribution of the prize and booty thus acquired. Here, the bonded sureties must symbolically bow and pray and subjugate themselves to the priest as they are commanded to rise to his or her honor, pronounced by the bailiff, who is nothing more than the Baal sheriff, thus showing us, but hidden in plain sight, that they are not really temples of justice, but temples in honor to their death god Baal. The Ba and the Ka and the bridge in between. Fundamental to this is the origin of the word bank, which is a synthesis of two original words we find in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. These two words are Ba and Ka. Ba refers to the component of the physical body that we identify as ourselves, the personality or the ego, which was claimed, owned, and bonded via the temples of Baal. Ka referred to the spiritual body, that which we strive to attain, to return to be allowed by the priests of the temple to reunite with, if we are found worthy by having fulfilled our duties in this material plane that they control. The Book of the Dead detailed what happened to the dead when the Ba was released from the physical body after death, and thereafter would undertake the journey of the dead through the underworld to seek passage past the god of the dead, namely Osiris. This was required in order to rise up into and merge with the Ka, the spiritual body. This, we could say, is the merger and integration of substance and being. If a man's being is found wanting due to being out of balance and in debt, there can be no unification of the Ba and the Ka. Thus, if we die in bondage and in debt, we will not pass the test nor the gateway to the higher realms, which are all metaphorically saying we cannot be united with our true beingness, however one describes that principle. But this is more than a metaphor. We exist in a multidimensional reality far beyond what appears to our delimited sense perceptions. There are laws that adhere in this multidimensional universe, and there is a whole lot more hidden malfeasance to this world system of debt, death, and bondage. One fundamental universal law is that if one voluntarily contracts oneself into servitude, then the karmic adhesion of the non-performance of the contractual obligation puts the ownership of that indentured servant in the hands of the creditor. If a man, woman, or child passes from this physical realm in death and debt, then he or she cannot bridge the gap between Ba and Ka, and is therefore containable, can be returned back into the physical containment field via reincarnation to be rebound, and the eternal life stream can be bound and bonded again and again and again. In Rome, the passage into the city was via the bridge of Juno Moneta. In the Roman construct, one must pay for the right of passage, and to do so, one must have what belongs to the goddess Juno as made self-evident by her second name, Moneta. It is from that name we derive the words monetary and money. She was a moon goddess, and her earlier names included Min, Mon, and Sin. So we are bound by her monetary system wherein time equals money as calculated by the minutes of her timekeepers. Juno is the daughter of Saturn, known as Kronos to the Greeks, the keeper of time, and the custodial overseer of the alleged inviolate divine right of kings with the placement of the imperial crown on the heads of those deemed worthy and compliant by the crown, or Kronos. Thus, in her name, we have the essence of time equals money through her patrilineal descent. She is married to Jupiter in Rome, Zeus in Greece. Jupiter and Zeus are derivatives of the earlier pantheon known as the Anunnaki in Sumer, Babylon, and Egypt, with the supreme god of such being known as Anu or An. Anu was the head of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were so named as the bridge between earth and heaven, the equivalent to the bridge via the journey through the underworld after death, seeking the bridge between the Ba and the Ka, and the same bridge controlled by the monetary system of Juno Moneta. In the Sumerian language, Anu is heaven or sun or supreme godhead, Ki is the earth, the key, and Na is the bridge between the two. These are all Sumerian terms. The word Anunnaki thus means a bridge between earth and heaven, or on an individual basis, the bridge between the body, the Ba, and the spirit, the Ka. Thus, the entire money system is an interposition that is a required process with which to be engaged in order to be able to merge the two, or so the storyline goes. And of course, who holds the keys or the key to the earth? Have a look at the crossed keys of the Vatican with the Triple Crown on top and the intertwining red and white ribbons, denoting the false white light and the blood/DNA. Then we see the true symbolism of St. Peter's Square with its Egyptian obelisk in the center of a keyhole and the capital, the head, on the left in the center of the handle of the key. Inscribed on the ground radiating out from the obelisk, we see the same lines of direction as would occur as the sun would rise on the horizon on the days of equinox and solstice 4 times per year. This is why the Pope is called the Pontius Maximus. Pontius is Latin for bridge, Maximus is Latin for maximum or supreme, hence the supreme bridge, the vicarious person incarnate sitting in for Anu in heaven. In Greek creation stories, Anu was renamed as Uranus, which, when we extend the phonetics of that name, we get You are Anus. Keep in mind, Anu is just an archetype, not a singular being, which sits in our minds as the user interface to the hive mind of the intended mechanical fusion transhumanistic artificial intelligence containment field. This naming game has morphed hundreds of times over the centuries to where now Anu is more commonly known as Lucifer, the bringer of the light. But light in this regard is the false hologram light matrix of containment and enslavement via electronic bondage and fusion. Thus, when it is purported that Jesus is the light made flesh, that flesh is really the false light enslavement systemized hologram. Just another control program in the matrix. There has ever since been an interposer standing in between the physical and the so-called spiritual, which is really our true beingness, who we are as eternal beings. This is the bridge of Juno Moneta that requires that we have money to pay the toll to cross the bridge into Rome, Rome being the alleged manifestation of God's graces and heavenly realm, again as the storyline goes. Juno Moneta's bridge is the bridge of Anu as well. Thus, An is the bridge standing as the interposer between the Ba and the Ka, to give us the Ba-Ang-Ka, or bank. Whether it is the temple where the riches of the world are held, as it was in Rome on the street of Janus, the two-faced god of peace and war, or the modern versions of such temples, including the temples of justice, where the black-robed priests of the legal code reside, sitting upon the bench or bank and issuing decrees by fiat to bond the populace, or the national temples of money or justice or variants thereof, they are all ultimately one and the same. Today, Rome stands as the Empire State of New York, where is situated the Federal Reserve, Wall Street, and many other components of the global monetary system. And, of course, we can't forget the phallus of Osiris in New York, showing up this time as the Empire State Building, and dedicated on May 1st. Thus, we must exert our life force and place it in voluntary servitude to bind ourselves to the false reality in commerce, in the trading of commercial paper, in the hopes that we can accumulate enough to pay the priests of the temple as described in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. In Egypt and afterwards, it was only those who were able to amass sufficient money who could pay the amount required by the priests to perform the necessary rites and rituals that would give sufficient power and thrust to carry them down the river of death to pass the gateway guarded by Osiris. Once passed, those found worthy are permitted into heaven and presumed to merge back into unified life and being by succeeding in the merger of the Ba and Ka. But such merger is only fictional and illusory in nature, as they are really bound to the fictional overlay of their own dystopian dreams. But if we die in debt, if there are overt and covert bonds that tie us to the fictional overlay that occludes the real substance of the living earth, hidden from our true eyes, then we cannot pay the priests of the temple of Baal, where our life is forfeit upon entering into that jurisdiction and contracting to the bailiff. Then we are bound, tied, gagged, and spiritually inert, because we have attached ourselves to the control of the Baal leaf, willingly, which is a reinstatement of our contractual consent. We have traded our true inheritance in life for a handful of silver coins and civil rights as we drudgingly move through life's daily rituals, ever wrapping ourselves deeper into bondage, to thus fall short when physical death occurs and not have the substance to pay for the priestly rites and rituals to pass through the gates of the dead. We do this every day, all day long, when we go to the bank or rise to the presumptive honor of the judicial priest as he moves to sit on his bench, trading our life force and substance for bonded instruments of debt or death, in obeisance to Zeus, Jupiter, Saturn, Kronos, Juno Moneta, all as the various visages of a mythical being known as Anu, the interloper, who sits as the ark of the heavens upon the two pillars that constitute his throne.